Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education this Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. I call this meeting to order, and I declare a quorum is present and the media has been notified. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I made the motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Ramsey, a second by Mr. Wright. To approve the agenda, is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Now entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Wright, a second by Mr. Ramsey, to enter into executive session for the stated purpose of discussion of pending employment matters to include the appointment of an administrator and 13 student attendance appeals. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are in executive session. Now entertain a motion to return to regular session.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion by Reverend Spann, a second by Mr. Wright. To return to regular session, is there any discussion? I'd like to state for the record that no action was taken in executive session. Hearing no other discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are now in regular session. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item 3B, the approval of minutes from the board workshop on August 7th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Conder, a second by Reverend Spann, to approve the minutes of the board workshop on August 7th, 2018. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion passes. Agenda item 3C, approval of minutes for the board meeting on August 14th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Wright, a second by Ms. Conder, to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting on August 14th, 2018. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We'll now move on to the Legacy Builders and Special Recognition. Ms. Katie Orvin Tanner.
Good evening, Chair Wofford, Superintendent Ingram, members of the board, and all of you who have joined us tonight. It is my honor to introduce all of our legacy builders for this month. And to help me do that with our first recognition is Dr. Kim McLaren's going to come up, and she's going to tell you a little bit about our Star Academy initiative, as they were just recently recognized as a District of Distinction.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Ingram. We are very excited to let you know that as of this school year, Berkeley County has been named a District of Distinction by District Administrator Magazine. We have been named that because they said we are an honor school district that is leading the way with new ideas and work. We are establishing initiatives that are yielding highly qualifiable benefits and can be replicated by other districts. Specifically, they noted our Star Academy, and we have here tonight a number of, yes, our Star Academy Director, Mr. Owens, and our former Star Academy Director, Jonah Bryant, and you have teachers here too, I believe. Yes. If you'd like them to come forward at this time, please. When we started the Star Academy in this county, it is a magnet program for over age 8th graders. We started it 10 years ago. Our graduation rate in this county was 67%. Every single year, the Star Academy students who start out with less than a 20% chance of graduating actually exceed the district graduation rate. And this past year, that was 84%, so it's pretty impressive.
Congratulations to all of you at Star Academy, and thank you for the work you're doing on behalf of those students. All right, now this is also a very special meeting for us. Each year around this time, we recognize our BCSD Legacy Legends. We began the recognition program of Legacy Legends back in 2009, and this was to recognize our outstanding classroom teachers who ignited a remarkable passion for education within their students. And the more we do this, the more I have even learned about these classroom teachers, that it's not even as much as what they've even done within the classroom walls, but how their legacy has continued outside of the classroom walls, and many times past retirement for many of them. We have some videos we're going to show you to introduce our first legacy legend, and she is Miss Tukey Harrop.
When you see people who are passionate about the school, the community, the history, that is what inspires you. I may not have graduated from Berkeley High School, but I love Berkeley High School because of how I see people like Miss Harrop love Berkeley High School. When I met her, Berkeley was celebrating its centennial anniversary, and she was one of the chair people for that celebration. And she had reached out to so many community members, people who attended Berkeley training. She was like that one person who was able to bring it all together. She helped us really preserve the history of Berkeley High School. And in preserving the history of Berkeley High School, really she's preserving the history of Berkeley County School District, right? So that's amazing.
There are a lot of memorable moments for me at Berkeley High School. The 100-year celebration was one of them. We celebrated the 100th anniversary of Berkeley being there, and I led that committee, and we had programs every month. That was lots of fun. I coached the mock trial team. We won 3 state championships. Those were huge moments for me. And just those everyday moments in the classroom, or even when I became a librarian, when you see it click in a student's head, you see that light bulb go off. And it's just, there's nothing that can compare to that. And that's what keeps you going on those days that nothing clicks for anybody. I saw the potential in every student that came through my door, whether it was the classroom or the library. I wasn't put off by a safety pin through the eyebrow or pink hair or how they were dressed or if they smelled bad or if they were the richest child in town, but that they were a student. I wanted them to love learning and to become lifelong learners. I wanted to plant that seed. I would have loved for them to all become historians, but that wasn't going to happen. But they would have passions of their own they would find. I think the best teachers that I had were they were strict. They were very structured. They were very much, this is what I expect, these are my expectations, this is what you need to do. So I always wanted to be clear with what was expected. And then if the student had trouble with it, then we could talk about it. We could work about it. Maybe we'd even have to do an alternate assignment. The legacy I hope that I've left on that school is that every child needs to be treated with dignity and with respect, and with the knowledge that they have a potential to reach their best, whatever their best might be. And that's a warm, welcoming environment for everybody, nurturing environment.
Miss Tukey Harif, if you'll join us, and as we recognize you as our 2008 Legacy Legend.
Family's here to support her. Yeah, stop taking the pictures.
Katie said we'd have a chance to say something, but I'm going to decline. I know that's a shock to everybody in this room because I do love to talk, but thank you. I really appreciate it. And let me just say there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people in this district that deserve this as much as I do, so I'm very humbled by it. Thank you.
Okay, and next up is our second Legacy Legend of the night, and it's Miss June Lee.
She's the consummate professional, raising boys at every moment, no matter what. June Lee was the librarian at Goose Creek when I was a teacher. And I was in the library on 9/11 when the towers were hit. And I will never forget the poise with which she handled the kids and how she, with grace, responded to their fear and their grief. That's something you don't see every day. June Lee raises the bar just by being there. High standards, respect for rigor, helping students move toward the careers they deserved and the lives they deserved. She gave kids room to grow and the belief that they could. She made a personal connection with kids through books. That was a lesson to all of us.
I hope I was a model of honesty and integrity. I hope I've left a legacy of hard work, of love for the students I taught, caring deeply about them not only while they were my students, but for what they were capable of achieving in the future, not only educationally, but just in their lives in general. I always wanted to teach. I love not only the literature, but the language itself. I'm a grammarian. I understand it. I love to teach grammar. I think a lot of English teachers today dread what little grammar is expected of them as far as imparting it to their students. I loved it. And I actually, maybe I'm living in La La Land, but I actually think I made some of my students love it. A young lady at Stratford who was in my English 1 class, and she was an excellent student, but I never really felt that she and I connected on a personal level isn't a good way to put it, but she wasn't someone who demonstrated a lot of closeness as far as a student-teacher relationship, and yet at the end of the year, she came to me and she said, "Because of you, I want to be an English teacher." And I thought, wow, what a blessing for me to hear you say that to me. And how much do I appreciate the fact that apparently I made a difference. I I wanted my students always to be honorable people and for their word to be their bond and for them to go out into the world and make a difference because of that.
All right, Miss June Lee, please come up to be recognized.
We were given an opportunity to speak. We were given an opportunity to speak at the lovely luncheon earlier in the summer, and I was not aware that we were going to be given the opportunity to speak. So I think I don't know what I said, but I doubt that it made a great deal of sense. I have just a few things written so that I won't completely go off the deep end. I promise you it's literally three sentences, I think, something like that. But I do love the English language. I do love everything about it. I love its basics. I love teaching the basics. I love teaching all the intricacies. I loved hearing my students speak it correctly and effectively. I loved seeing them and hearing them read with understanding and with insight. And I loved seeing the written word come out from their minds onto the paper in such a beautiful way, often just a mind-blowingly beautiful way that they were able to put thoughts onto paper. It was just a constant blessing for me. But the biggest blessing for me has been being a part of this county for over 2 decades. Mr. Dave Barrow was one of the administrators at Stratford when I was there, and he is indicative of the level of people who work in this county and who are just so exemplary. I don't know how I deserved such a blessing to be among all these wonderful administrators and to be surrounded by so many incredible fellow teachers and students who will live in my heart forever. But I have had that blessing, and it is very humbling. And although I certainly am not as deserving as many others, I can promise you, Dr. Ingram, and all of you on the board, and all of you, that no one is more appreciative than I of this honor. Thank you so much.
And congratulate you and take pictures.
Yes. Family. Come on, girls.
Come on up. I'll let you get away that
Yeah. Do we take family pictures?
Yeah, that's her nickname. Daughter's last name is Pat. And my son's last name is Bolson.
All right, and our final legacy legend of the night, I know pretty well. She is my mother, Miss Karen Orvin.
Karen Orvin has been a mentor for me as well as the students at Bonner. I've had the privilege of working with her in multiple roles. She was a teacher and an instructional coach. She worked with our students and had a real passion for making students grow and succeed in life, as well as working with their parents and the staff. Her commitment to the community extended way beyond the school. Students come back and visit whenever she was still at school, or students respond to her on Facebook still, updating her on what they're doing and how they're doing. Families are still in contact with her. She's made a lasting impression, not only while she was there, but that has continued after she's left. She will always be remembered for the compassion and the sincere love that she had for them. We would hire teachers outside of the Lowcountry or even outside of the state, and she would not only work with them during the instructional day, she would welcome them in her home, and to this day they actually still have contact and attend her family events. So she's been a role model, a mentor for many teachers as well as our students, and I can't think of a better person to receive this award.
I would hope that I've left a legacy of a love of reading, which has been my passion since I started teaching, and a legacy of caring and love of teaching and children. You have to let those kids know that you love them and that you care for them and that you're there for them, and you believe, you really truly believe that they can be successful. I had a little girl one year that I'm always cold, and so she got where she started wearing her sweater across her shoulders the same way I did, and her mother was talking about how she had seen that and noticed it and realized that she was modeling me. And something as simple as that, you know, that they notice and they pick up on, that, you know, they're watching everything. So I think we are making a very lasting impression on these children, and I think how I treat them and how I react toward them in any situation molds them into a little bit of how they're going to react to other people and react to situations in life. I'm very fortunate and honored to be able to say that I am now teaching the children of the children that I taught. So when someone requests that I teach their child and I taught them, that's the biggest compliment I think I could ever get, is that somebody who thought I did such a great job that they actually want me to teach their child. There's nothing that compares to that joy. It's a calling, but it's also a way of life for me.
All right, Miss Orvin, you'll come up.
I didn't know I was going to have to speak again. I think I'd have been too nervous if I'd have known ahead of time. But as I told them the other day when we met the first time, that there are many deserving teachers of this recognition and award, and I'm just one of those. But what makes my story a little bit different is that when I was in school and when I started school as a first grader, I cried every single day, and I cried for years, every single day almost. And so I did not like school, and I was not comfortable in school. And then when I got to the point that I was getting ready to graduate and make a decision to go to college, someone who was very influential in my life at the school pulled me aside and said, "You're not college material. It would be best if you would look for something else." She would not, help me with anything to get ready to go to college. So my father said no, I was going, and I did go. And of course, I'm here today, so I was successful there. I made it. But I think, one thing that for me as a teacher, when I decided to go into teaching, was definitely my love for children. And I can't remember a time when I wasn't around children, didn't have something to do with children, whether it be in family situations or at church or in school. But also, it wasn't just children, it was the desire to make it better for other children so that they didn't have those feelings that I had. And it wasn't that at the beginning that somebody did something wrong to me, but that I could reassure those children and make them feel more comfortable. And my hope is that I did that. I hope that in my, years of teaching, that I made that difference in the classroom so that instead of coming with tears, they eventually came with smiles and that they came ready to learn. And I have a very strong passion for teaching reading. And I want to also believe that in this process that I also taught them to love reading as much as I do, and that they're lifelong readers, which makes them successful in any area of life. And this is my 41st year of teaching because I retired after 38 and then took a year off and went back. And so I'm teaching again in a Christian school. It's in your blood. You can't escape it. It's who I am. It defines me. And I'm very proud to be a teacher. I'm very honored to be a teacher. And I thank you for the award and for honoring me in this way. But like I said, I'm just one of many, many out here in Berkeley County who love kids and get up every single day, love what they're doing, and want the best for these children and hope to see them succeed in any way whatsoever. And I don't ever want to be the one that says, you're not able to make that goal. I want to be the one that makes them feel like you can do whatever you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Better get in there, girl.
I see all kinds of crew. I have all the people. My family and my extended family.
Here's the whole gang.
Like children. Susan. And Audrey. So you can see him right here.
Space. 3, 2, 1. Everybody look. Everybody look. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. I guess good to see you too. Oh, let's go. I'm so embarrassed.
I will say one common theme I've heard from all of our legacy legends was, how could someone do this to me? And I think that really just goes to their heart, though, is that they never did what they did to earn any honors or recognitions. All three of them did what they did because it's truly who they are. And so I really hope that we captured that tonight. And I think it's just a testament to all of our teachers. They truly represent the heart of teachers, that they are doing this because they care about the kids that they're teaching, not because they need any of these things. And they actually didn't want any of these things, but we are glad that we were able to recognize them. So let's give them all one last round of applause. All right, and that concludes our Legacy Builders for this evening.
Thank you so much for the recognition for Star Academy. It is a great program. I appreciate the work and time and effort you have poured into kids to get them on the right track, and also to our legacy legends. What a legacy you have left for Berkeley County, and some folks like Miss Karen who can't quit yet, and I'm sure that Miss Tukey is helping somebody somewhere, and Miss June is as well. So thank you so much for all the lives you've touched and all the children you have blessed with your love. We are so appreciative. If you came just to be recognized or just for the legacy legends, now is a good time to go home and do something more fun than a school board meeting. So this is a good time now if you'd like to exit. We are very grateful that you came. Don't make these little kitties have to sit there any longer. Thank you. God, the contact doesn't work in my eye. It's just draining and draining. I've got a blister on my eye, and it just keeps. Up next, we'll move on to agenda item 5A, which is citizen comments. We have Jordan Wiley, Chloe Mays, and Samuel Polk to please come forward. They're speaking about the plans of student government at Berkeley High School and introducing themselves to the board. Thank you so much. We're going to go over the procedures for citizen comments. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person or persons wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker, but you can all speak together. That will be fine. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. Welcome, and we would love to hear your comments.
So good evening, board members, Dr. Ingram, and community members. I'm Jordan Willie, this year's student body president at Berkeley High School. I'm here today with Samuel Polk, the student body historian, and Chloe Mays, the student body vice president. And we're here today to tell you about the different projects and the goals and support that we would love from the school board this year as we endeavor down our journey. So one of the biggest projects we're doing this year is bringing back the homecoming dance to Berkeley High School. Our theme is Charleston Nights, and we plan to unite Berkeley High School, every grade, every background, and leave a lasting legacy and a source of income for our school to fund not only student government, but to give back to our community, which is the only reason that we can stand before you today. And so I know the question y'all are all asking is if you're invited, and the answer is yes. But the next initiative we're working at is bringing back a pageant to Berkeley High School. In the past, if I do recall, we did have a pageant, and it was very successful. And we're currently in works with Miss Teen South Carolina to make our pageant a stepping stone for this prestigious competition. Our goals as student body officers was to unite the school, but also the community. This project can unite not only Berkeley High School, but bring people from the community who believe in themselves to come and participate in this and compete for scholarship dollars that are much needed in our community and our schools and beyond. And finally, board members, we plan to use our funds raised to promote one of the number one issues on the minds of students and parents alike, and that's school safety. My fellow officers and I have done our research and have found many cost-effective programs that would work in our schools. Board members, in order for us to achieve this goal that is dear to all of our hearts, we need your support and we need your wisdom to guide us and to insight in how to achieve a safer and better Berkeley High School for all. Thank you, Mr. Steele, our principal. Thank you, board members, Dr. Ingram, and thank you, Ms. Bates, our sponsor. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to agenda item 6A, action as required from executive session. Ms. Lee?
Yes, I make a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the after-school GT Fine Arts supplement of $1,600 per teacher to be in compliance with the September 17th state deadline to begin serving these students.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Wofford, to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the after-school GT Fine Arts supplement of $1,600 per teacher to be in compliance with the September 17th state deadline to begin serving these students. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next motion from executive session. Ms. Kelly.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve that formal complaint and report of the breach of contract for one teacher to be sent to the State Board of Education to ask that appropriate action be taken against the employee for unprofessional conduct as discussed during executive session.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Kelly, a second by Reverend Spann, to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the formal complaint and report of breach of contract for one teacher to be sent to the State Board of Education to ask that appropriate action be taken against the employee for unprofessional conduct as discussed during executive session. Is there any additional? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Last item from executive session. Mr. Wright.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation by the administration to name LaWanda Gliers as new principal of Ken Hoy Elementary School with the contract to be in effect as soon as she's released from Charleston County.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Wright, a second by Mr. Barrow, to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Ms. LaWanda Gliers as the new principal of Cane Hoy Elementary School with a contract to take effect as soon as possible when Charleston County releases her. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Welcome, Ms. Gliers. Congratulations. So we normally ask you to tell us who you brought with us, but I think you brought all of your everybody from Cane Hoy must have come with you. But give us an overview of who's with you to support you.
Hi, Mom. All right. Awesome.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
Ms. Gliers, we want you to go over there and take some pictures. Take some pictures with your family, and also we would love to have a picture with you with the Men's Coalition. Yeah, get in the picture. Beautiful.
Senior year. That's for the old man. Old man.
Hey, man.
Support right there. That is great.
Perfect. All right, all eyes on me. 3, 2, 1.
What wonderful support from the community, Ms. Clears. We are so happy to steal you away from Charleston County as soon as they will let you go. And if y'all would like to stay for the meeting, we would love to have you. But if you would like to go do something better than a board meeting, thank you for being here.
Madam.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Wright would like to say something. I'm so sorry.
Madam Chair, I would just like to say that Wanda Glare's husband, Kevin, is not here tonight because he's a military vet and he's still serving his country in terms of he's retired but still working for the military. So he's away for a week for training. And I thank him for all that he's done for our country and allowing you to be with us to do as much as you will do for the Kenhoy community. And she is my classmate, the class of 1978. I know we don't look that old, but we are.
Do not.
But I hope that you have a successful stay at Kenhoy, and we certainly will support you as much as we can. Thank you very much.
Frank, she looks a lot younger than you.
I mean, ladies always look better than men.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to committee reports. The first committee is the Academics and Innovation Committee. Student attendance appeals. Thank you. Keep me on track. There's plenty of them. One more item from executive session. Actually, technically, 13 items from executive session. First, we'll hear student number 1. Is there a motion for student number 1?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that we deny the appeal of student number 1.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Wright, a second by Reverend Spann, to deny the appeal of student number 1. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries 5-3. Student number 2.
Madam Chair, I move that we deny the appeal for student number 2.
Second.
There's a motion by Reverend Spann, a second by Ms. Kelly, to deny the appeal of student number 2. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries 7-0. Students 3 and 4 will be heard together. Is there a motion for students 3 and 4?
Madam Chair, I move that we deny the appeal for students 3 and 4.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Reverend Spann, to deny the appeal of students 3 and 4. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Student number 5.
Madam Chair, I move that we deny the appeal for student 5.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Ms. Kelly, to deny the appeal of student number 5. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Students 6, 7, and 8 will be heard together. Is there a motion for students 6, 7, and 8?
I move that we deny the appeals for 6, 7, and 8.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Mr. Barrow, to deny the appeals of students 6, 7, and 8. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Student number 9.
Madam Chair, I move that we deny the appeal for student number 9.
Second.
There's a motion by Reverend Spann, a second by Mr. Barrow, to deny the appeal of student number 9. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. In the matter of student number 10, I move that we approve the appeal for student number 10.
Second.
There's a motion by Wofford, a second by Ms. Condor, to approve the appeal of student number 10. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 5-2. Students 11 and 12 will be heard together. Is there a motion for students 11 and 12?
I move that we deny the appeal for students 11 and 12.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Reverend Spann, to deny the appeal of students 11 and 12. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. Student number 13. Is there a motion?
I move that we deny the appeal for 13.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Lee, a second by Mr. Barrow, to deny the appeal of student number 13. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0. I was trying to hurry us down the road earlier, but now we are officially on action item 7A. So the next item on the agenda are the reports from the standing committees. First, a report from the Committee on Academics and Innovation. Chairwoman Ann Condor, you're recognized.
Madam Chairwoman, the Committee on Academics and Innovation met on August 14, 2018. On recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the Head Start Budget Expenditures Report and Credit Card Report for June 2008, the 2018-19 revised job descriptions, and the prospective new hires as submitted by administration.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Madam Chairman, that concludes my report.
Next on the agenda is item 8. It's the Committee on Finance and Human Resources. Chairman Michael Ramsey.
Madam Chairwoman, the Committee on Finance and Human Resources met on August 14, 2018. On recommendation of the committee, I move to approve second and final reading of revised policy GBEC, Drug and Alcohol-Free Workplace and Schools.
Second.
We have a recommendation from committee, so no second is required. Is there any discussion?
I do have a comment.
Yeah.
Well, it's this item and one other that have been brought to my attention by some constituents. Not that I disagree with the drug testing, but it's the cost factor. And Ashley, I can't remember. I know that you sent it to us, but I can't remember what the cost was. And there is some concern among teachers in my constituency that there's a cost associated with this, and we're not able to do a lot of things in right now because of the situation we're in. And just an additional cost right now is not looked upon favorably. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't know if you guys have heard the same thing that I've heard.
I think the cost was about $30 a test to $50 a test. And I know we had considered reducing the percentage. I didn't remember that this was I just read over that this was the second reading. For some reason, I thought this was the first reading on this hearing. So the numbers that we had on the percentages, we heard that for the first time in committee last time, but we had a reading at time before that. So So this that we're voting on now, do we have a administrative rule for the percentage, or is this the policy that just allows us to conduct the test and then the administrative rule will? It's just the policy that allows it to happen, and there'll have to be an administrative rule basically to actually carry out some percentage of. So this is going to give us the authority to test, but it doesn't mandate that we will test.
Okay, and I think that could be, we could probably do a better job of explaining that to our teachers, that we're not necessarily giving their paychecks away.
Yes. With
doing drug testing this year, because I know that, things are tight. And I think that teachers realize that, but the ones that have spoken to me we're concerned that, we're spending money when we can't really necessarily spend it on our teachers, but we're spending it on drug testing. And again, not saying that we don't need it, not saying that it's not a valid concern and not a valid expense. But this year, it's a little hard to swallow for some people.
So the policy gives authority, and then there will have to be an administrative direction on finance, budgeting, how much, how many. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Barrett.
I recall a fairly extensive discussion about this last board meeting. And some issues were raised by me and several other board members about safety-sensitive positions. The policy requires employees that are in safety-sensitive positions to be a part of this random drug testing. My question was, and other individuals, not just on this dais, but in the schools, they want to know which employees are eligible or are going to be required to be in the pool and which aren't. We also had a discussion whether or not this is just a school-based policy, or is it for the entire district, 4,500 employees throughout the district. We asked for some clarity. If you recall, we asked for some clarity. I think Mr. McQuillan asked for some clarification about safety-sensitive positions with Dr. Whitley. She may have some information on that. But there are some other questions that have arisen since our last discussion. Somebody actually spoke to me today questioning if a person, let's say, is randomly drug tested for, let's say, alcohol, and they have a 0.02 alcohol content in their blood, does that mean that they are in violation of the policy? What level, if any, of disciplinary action would be they'd be subjected to? So I don't mean to be contrary, but I am basically a detailed-oriented person, and it seems to me it would be in the best interest of the board to table this particular situation for some further clarification on several things, such that we could really iron the policy out before we actually approve a policy in which we're really not sure what we're approving. We know that we're allowing something, but we don't know what we're allowing. It just bothers me, and it troubles me to some degree. For example, the number of employees. We talked about 25% of the employees, and we said, well, maybe we need to reduce that to 10. Then we talked about the number of days during the course of the school year. I think we were 5 different school days, 4 times a year, in which basically employees would be called and drug screened. And then that's 20 days, depending upon the number. And we're talking, yes, we're talking about some money. I think it was $58,000 was the. I think Ms. Abramson is here. She may be able to clarify that. But that sticks out in my mind about $58,000. But I'm not sure that if that's accurate. But it really depends on the number of people that you're testing, and the number of employees that are so-called exempt or non-exempt. So there's some serious questions that I have and other employees of the school district have. So I would hope that the board would reserve the opportunity to table this for further study and deliberations, and come back with some more details about how we're going to handle this.
Now, I do feel like safety sensitive it says safety sensitive positions include principals, assistant principals, teachers' aides, school bus drivers, and others involved in direct supervision, instruction, or transportation of students, positions requiring a commercial driver's license or the operation of heavy machinery, positions involving the maintenance of major mechanical or electrical equipment, and positions involving the delivery of medical care to students. Safety-sensitive positions are those positions where a single mistake by the employee can create an immediate threat of serious harm to the students and fellow employees. So I feel like that's spelled out directly. It adds in a pre-hire drug screen. And I believe it gives us, I really don't think we want some kind of policy matrix where you don't want to take the latitude of the administration away. I don't think you want to say, if it's this, then the punishment is that. Every situation is unique. And so I feel like that what happens when someone has a random drug or alcohol test positive would be up to the principal and human resources to figure out what's going on with that employee and try to resolve it. But I feel like the policy leaves latitude for that.
And that was one of my major concerns, was just if someone did fail a drug test, and maybe it was a young teacher or just anyone who had done something foolish that they really shouldn't have done, because lots of folks make mistakes, and especially when you're young, it seems like. So I was really concerned that it was going to be a one and done. And as far as the way I read the wording of the policy, is it's not. So still a lot of it does still have to be determined. What this is kind of doing is giving us a policy where it can be determined by administration, and it can be thought out more, as Mr. Barrow is saying, but it's not, it's the safety sensitive positions did make more sense when I read the policy today as well. And also, so I think the heart of the matter is really, we're trying to protect children as always, and it's not really so much that we're just trying to go on a witch hunt and spend a lot of money on drug tests, because that's not something that I would be very happy about. But the reality that the world that we live in today, it is a very serious issue, and it is something that would be wrong for us not to address to the best of our ability. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, and can't we iron some of these? In my mind, a policy is very broad, but the administrative rule is much more narrow. Can we narrow that down in the administrative rule because we haven't developed that yet, correct?
That's my understanding, that there's still some direction, because it just says, in addition, employees in safety-sensitive positions may be subject to a random drug test. It does not prescribe a program. And I think Mr. Brandenburg and Ms. Abrahamson came up to try to give us some information of what a program would look like, but that was the information only. That we didn't vote on the 25% and the money and the budgeting. We didn't vote on that. That was just for information to put the policy in perspective. But I did a little bit of research. So opioid deaths in South Carolina in 2016, in the 25 to 34 age range is 136. From the 35 to 44 age range is 153. And from the 45 to 54 age range is 152. This is not necessarily a young person's problem. It's a middle age. Opioids deaths by race and sex, 35% of opioid deaths were white females and 58% were white males. And Berkeley County is one of the top counties in the state. And there's a drastic rise in deaths and use of opioids. And I think probably everybody got that business journal. I think I get it because I'm on the school board, but it had some good graphics in it. But I feel like the policy creates a framework for our administration to make good decisions. And if we feel strongly about an administrative rule, then we can have an administrative rule. But I think the maybe and that we're not going to do it until it's budgeted and funded makes it where, like tomorrow, we're not going to start drug testing people tomorrow when there's not money in the budget.
Madam Chair, I feel that we are in a drug epidemic, as everyone knows, and Berkeley County happened to be one of the fastest growing county in the state, fourth largest. And with the amount of employees that we have and the amount of students that we have, I think it's imperative that we move forward with some type of drug awareness so that the employee will know that we have something in place. And that way they will be cognizant of the fact that something is going on and somebody is watching.
I just wanted to say that, sorry, I agree with Reverend Spann. I have the utmost faith in our administration. I trust them. I know they're not going to go out and just start, like you said, drug testing people tomorrow. We will have a plan in place. We'll make intentional steps. The thought process will be there. And I've seen it happen firsthand. Opioids, drugs, we've all probably seen it completely destroy families. Somebody goes helping, clean out a grandmother's bathroom cabinet, and somebody's like, "Oh, look at these pills. We'll just hang on to these for if we, have some backache." And then next thing you know, I saw it happen to a family. A businessman completely destroyed their whole lives, the kids' lives, and just to think if maybe his job did some drug testing, who knows, maybe it could have saved that one family. And I do feel like we're all a family here in Berkeley County. So I think I agree with Reverend Spann and the others that we should.
I have 2 or 3 comments I'd like to make. You all know that I work as a crisis counselor in a local hospital in the ER. And I'm going to tell you firsthand what I've seen. It's not pleasant. I've seen people come in who have been revived because EMS was quick enough to get there, and they were given a dose of Narcan. If it had not been for that fact, they'd be dead. Some of them don't survive it. I've also seen firsthand what some drugs can do. Excuse me. What some drugs can do to change somebody's personality on a dime. When you think this person is a fairly stable person and they're in front of a classroom and they're teaching, and then the next thing you know, they've gone psychotic because they smoked some pot 2 days earlier that was laced with some sort of substance like PCP or something along those lines, and you just don't expect those things to happen. Drugs, the effects of drugs are insidious. They can sneak up on you. They can take a life. They can take the lives of people around you. And I'm telling you from my own experience as a mental health professional that to not have a drug screening program is irresponsible, especially with the conditions that are out there today. So I'm 100% for it, and I'm certainly against tabling a vote on this.
All right, so we have a recommendation from the committee. No second was required. We've had extensive discussion. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1.
Also on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve for first reading the revision of 2 policies, GBC staff compensation, payroll practices and deductions, and 2, GCOA evaluation of instructional staff and adoption of 6 policies. And the deletion of 11 policies. The 6 policies that we wish to adopt: number 1, GBL sick leave; number 2, GBM Family Medical Leave Act; number 3, GBN military leave; number 4, GBO vacation leave / holidays; number 5, GBP emergency catastrophic leave program; and 6, GBQ other leave. The deletion of 11 policies are: number 1, Exhibit GCC GDE1, Employee Rights and Responsibilities under FMLA; number 2, Exhibit GCC GDCE2, Professional Improvement Leave of Absence Application; number 3, Exhibit GCC GDCE3, Certification of Physician and Practitioner; number 4, Exhibit GCCAAE, Application for Use of E/CLP; number 5, Policy GCC-GDC, Staff Leaves and Absences; number 6, Policy GCD-GDD, Staff Vacations / Holidays; number 7, Policy GCQF, Discipline, Suspension, and Dismissal of Instructional Staff; number 8, Policy GDQA, Support Staff Reduction in Force; number 9, Policy GCCAAA, Emergency / Catastrophic Leave Program, E/CLP; number 10, Rule GCC-GDCR, Staff Leaves and Absences; and number 11, Rule GCKR, Professional Staff Assignments and Transfers.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? And I will say that I've had a couple of contacts, and I've spoken with Dr. Whitley, and she's worked on some edits, which I expect you will see before the next committee meeting. But one that was brought to my attention was we had for FMLA essentially a spousal punishment, that if both spouses work for Berkeley County School District, they shared their 12 weeks of FMLA, so that if you had a sick leave parent and a pregnant spouse, if you went and took care of your parent, you would be taking away from your spouse's maternity leave. That's poorly written. We can afford to have FMLA for every person who works here should have their own 12 weeks of FMLA. If we were a smaller company, like 75 people, and 2 people were out at the same time, that might make sense. But the volumes of people that we have, the likelihood that 2 people being out at the same time would be catastrophic to us is not. So I just think that's not fair. Dr. Whitley has talked to Mr. Gaskins, and what we had in the policy now is what the law says. So you can do what the law says, or you can do better. So providing each employee their own 12 weeks would be better than the law. So I've asked for that recommendation. There's also been some discussion about sick leave and what the sick leave can be used for different kinds of employees. And Dr. Whitley can maybe shed some more light on that. But we have worked on some edits for that as well, to make that fair and say that you can use your sick leave for your immediate family. Am I saying that correctly? For all employees.
In the policy, it was 225 and 245 who had vacation leave and exhaust their vacation leave before they could use it for their immediate family.
That's a good benefit. If you have a sick kid or a sick person in your life, immediate family that you have to take care of, you should be able to take sick leave to take care of that. So I think both of those are improvements for our employees. The only other thing that I was asked about that I hadn't passed on to staff was if we would entertain a policy to share leave, so that if someone I worked with was having a hard time and needed 5 more days leave, could I transfer my leave to someone specific? Say, if Shannon's child was sick and I had sick leave, could I transfer it? I don't know the technicalities of that or how that would work. I know we already have a major catastrophic leave policy, but if y'all could, some places do that where you can donate like up to... Leave, yeah. And we have it where you can donate to the catastrophic fund, but I know there are some places where you can say, I want to give 2 extra days. I don't need them and I'm going to give them to someone specific. I don't know how hard that is to administrate, but I think that would be a benefit even beyond the catastrophic leave, because I think our employees would team up and help someone on their team that was really suffering. I think they would help. If somebody was having a chronically sick kid or some personal thing going on, I think we would team up and help each other. So I don't know if that's possible through the softwares we have, but if you would look into that, those were the 3 things on this that were brought to my attention, which I all thought would be improvements for our employees.
Dr. Whitley, I know that the state of South Carolina offers that. They have a pool of sick leave that you can contribute to in order to help people out. We had one of our counselors when I worked for Berkeley Mental Health had to go in for chemo quite a bit, and that's what a lot of us did. You know, we voluntarily gave her some of our leave time. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, but I think what I was hearing from you is not necessarily a catastrophic. It was more of, and this person's probably had like this horrible amount of just rotten things happen where they've had to be out a lot. And, your team teacher is saying, oh, well, I don't ever use my sick days, so here, have 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I think you would probably, I think you'd have to. There would have to be some cap of something that's reasonable, and we're making up more things for somebody to manage, because we can have a great idea, and then somebody's going to have to run around and count the hours and make sure they got transferred from over here to over there in payroll. So I know I'm like, just making up things for somebody to do. So I need to know if that's I don't know if we have a process to make that reasonable. And I know we have catastrophic, but if we have something that would be less than catastrophic. When my child was very sick, and I had lots of missed days, I worked for someone flexible in my job. I could work remotely. And so when I had a sick kid who kept calling from school trying to figure out what was wrong, I was able to be flexible. I know our teachers and some of our staff don't have that flexibility, and they could end up exhausting it or being out without pay. So there's some in between.
I will check in that, because I think other districts do that.
I think that, I think not sharing FMLA, I think being able to, having good leave policies, I think is a big benefit for our people to feel taken care of. So
I'd like to comment on similarly. I've had several employees contact me about the perceived sick leave policy, and I think Dr. Whitley has clarified it to some degree. But for the folks out there in the buildings, is the sick leave, what we're looking at here, this policy, is it going to be adjusted, modified, changed, or whatever to accommodate the employee's sick leave for their children or for their spouse? Because as I see it, as I've been informed, the consensus is that in order for an employee to use their sick leave, it has to be them personally, and that their children or the immediate family, they'd have to use some sort of other leave. Could you clarify that and make our employees a little bit more comfortable?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. One policy before that addressed it. Now it's written as 2 policies. The first policy is the sick leave, and that pertains to the employee
So each 190-day employee has 12 sick leave days. Is there a number that restricts their sick leave in terms of their immediate family? Or all 12 could be used for the sickness of a child or a spouse? It doesn't have to be the employee. That is very comforting to a lot of employees because they didn't see it that way.
To the one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Also on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the revised 2018-2019 salary book.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Also on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the semi-annual procurement reports for January the 1st, 2018 to June the 30th, 2018.
We have a recommendation from committee, so no second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Also on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve an emergency procurement for the young group to provide voluntary student accident/injury policy options to Berkeley County School District students for 2018-2019 school year as a courtesy to parents seeking primary or additional coverage for their children at no cost to the school district.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll
I
call
have a
the
question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is in place of what we eliminated before, where every student was automatically covered.
Yeah, and we were paying. So now we went back to, they'll send paperwork home and the parent can check it and send whatever, $7 or $12 or $22. I don't know how much it cost, and be able to get that voluntary coverage.
Okay, but this doesn't cover if we have a cheerleader that falls and breaks her arm.
They're covered under the other policy that passed, the athletic policy that passed last month.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Also on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve a change order to year one cost for Cronus time management implementation in the amount of $447,719.25, with an overall 7-year project increase of $308,359.05 due to changes in actual versus projected expenditures stated on the approved award notice for RFP 484-16-17.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I have some discussion on this.
Mr. Barrow?
Thank you. I looked at last year's bid, the June 13, 2017, and I looked at the video. There's really no discussion about what this entailed other than the fact that we have to upgrade some data and some computer systems, which is natural. The Cronus component of this was an attendance, and I guess it just slipped my mind. There was no real discussion about what it evidently really intended to do, and that is basically to provide enough time clocks in all of our buildings to require all of our employees to sign in and to sign out. Now, that discussion never took place until a couple of weeks ago. So we have effectively allocated funds in the amount of $1.97 million over a 7-year period, but with really no policy in place that affects that. So it seems like we put the cart before the horse. It seems like you would have a policy in place, then an RFP bid, and then an allocation of funds to accommodate the funding for the policy. But we're doing it backwards. We allocated $1.97 million, but there's no policy in place which really defines what the time clocks are the purpose for, and it presupposes the fact that evidently someone assumed that the board would pass the policy after the funds were required and be allocated. This doesn't seem, it just seems backwards to me.
So you're saying we don't have a policy that our employees have to be on time and ready to work?
I'm saying we don't have a policy that requires them to sign in and out on a time clock every day. That's what we discussed 2 weeks ago, that there was going to be a policy, that someone was going to be working on a policy that required that. We don't have that now. We do not have a policy that requires our employees to sign in and out on a time clock. Now, I understand the benefits that were explained a couple of weeks ago, but it seems to me that there's no policy requiring the teachers to sign in and out on a daily basis.
My understanding is what this is just a time management system. And so not only is it checking in and checking out, but it's also about their leave, and then it also goes straight to the payroll system and also helps HR. So my understanding is we have 47 school campuses. Mm-hmm. We have a district office. We have the Fishburne Education Center. We have the maintenance department. My understanding is that it also takes into account vacation and sick leave will be kept up. Also, my understanding is that we will also have an understanding of who everyone is inside the building from a safety perspective. So basically, I look at this kind of like when I first started my job I currently have, we didn't hardly have a computer. We had a computer where you did little dots. It's kind of funny to think now. And even when I graduated from college, we didn't even really use computers then. We still handwrote our papers, and we had a computer lab. But then what happened was we got new software. We got a new, better way of doing things, and it made things more efficient. So I see the $1.9 million, but what I also see is kind of like most modern school districts. They have similar setups like this. So it's not really, it's kind of like, do you need a policy to tie your shoes? I mean, I don't so much see this as a policy issue. I see this as trying to be as effective as we can with the money that we have. Because if we don't have something like this, we're going to have to hire more people for HR. We're going to have more work for all the folks in those 47 school campuses. And also even the principal and assistant principal, it should be very easily now to see, well, these folks are checked in or checked out. So I get the concept of, am I now being monitored? Do I have to do a time clock? Am I punching a card? I get that concept, but I don't really see that is what this is about. What I see this is about is actually trying to be more efficient and trying to be more modernized. That's so time management system.
I do have a comment, and it kind of goes back to earlier when I made a comment about the money. This too has been brought to me by teachers in my district. Again, it goes back to the money of us spending that, and I don't disagree that it needs to be spent.
It's two different kinds of money, though. This is not money that we can spend on. This is capital money. So we have O&M money that we can pay teachers with, and we have capital money that we can make investments in. So it's unfair to say if we don't spend it on a time system, we can spend it over here. If you don't spend it on a time system, you will actually deteriorate your O&M because you will have to pay more salaries, which have to come from O&M. So I know everybody doesn't think about money in two different ways, but this is money that was budgeted for our capital and drawn on bonds. So Michael and I just closed bonds last week, and this is in a 7-year payments on that capital draw. Even if you did, so you could not draw the money out of capital, but you still couldn't pay teachers with it because it's not the same kind of money.
At least not pay them legally.
Yeah, not legally. That's illegal. You cannot do that. Not unless they were actually building the school. So the long-term capital investment actually improves your O&M because you've got 5 people now in payroll that are hand keying all of our payroll in. Also, not to air all of our dirty laundry, but I mean, we've paid someone's health insurance for 6 months after they left here because we did not account for them properly. We've overpaid leave. We've paid someone who stopped working here and they did not come out of our system. Not $2, lots of money. So you actually reduce your O&M by making the capital investment that's more efficient. If you feel strongly about a policy or administrative rule, I feel like being at work, on time, checking in, turning in your leave, all that stuff, I feel like that's common sense stuff. But if we need a policy, you feel strong about a policy, we can ask administration for a policy. But the efficiency gained is going to free up those HR resources in the long run. And it's not the same kind of money. And it's hard because every dollar we spend is scrutinized. And teachers are very, very overworked. And, we are saying that we want them to have autonomy, and then we're telling them to clock in. So it feels like a mixed message because why are you telling me two different things? But I feel like the ability to clock in and be responsible and put your leave in, that's what I do every day. I feel like that treats our folks more like professionals, where they can be responsible for their check-in and their check-out. That's professional. Lots of people do that, and I feel like it gives them the freedom to come in the building, and the more time clocks actually will be more clocks in the building, so they don't have to all funnel through door number A, letter A in front of the principal's office or something. The additional clocks actually give them flexibility to enter the building close to where they are actually coming in and out. So I hope it's not an insult to teachers. It's two different kinds of money, and I really feel like in the long run, it gives much more flexibility and much more autonomy to be able to come in the door and go out of the door, and be your own person and not have to go sign in. And some people do it on paper and some people don't do it at all, which is why we come up with paying people too long. So anyway, if you feel strongly we need a policy, we can ask for a policy, but I feel like coming and going makes common sense, and we have budgeted this capital money over 7 years, and the addition of this is for additional clocks so that our employees can come and go out of multiple doors.
Let me just clarify, it wasn't my brainchild to have this policy issue. That was a discussion, and as I recall, if you look at the video, the administration said that they were going to develop a policy that would be hand in glove with this time clock requirement. It wasn't something that I thought up, but it is something that was brought up and was discussed to some degree, and I believe Dr. Whitley would probably recall that conversation. Now, whether or not there's a policy or whatever, that is not something that I brought up. It's an issue that would be relative to the expenditure of the funds in terms of how the employees, for example, let me ask a question here. Let's say there are 4,500 employees, everybody signs in and out. Now, depending on when they sign out, if they have a open house or if they've got a football game or whatever, are they going to clock out then or at the end of their school day? But that's irrelevant. let's say, and let me go back to my days as a principal. We had a policy where every kid had to have an ID badge. We had 2,800 students at Stratford High School. On a daily basis, we required them to have them, but anywhere from 50 to 150 would not have them. They'd leave them in the car, the dog ate them, somebody took them, the car was in the shop. So how are we going to handle that? 4,500 employees every day, or is everybody going to have their badge? How is these are the things. See, I'm not a global person.
I think they have to have their badge to get in the door.
But I understand that. But not everybody is going to. I mean, not everybody opens the door every day for themselves. Is what I'm saying. There's going to be certain numbers of people that cannot clock in because they don't have their badge. So maybe that's what the policy will allow for. I don't know. But I can tell you that some people are very upset about it because they don't think that that's being treated professionally. And that's not my opinion. I'm retired, okay? I see their position. I see the board's position. I do. But I can tell you that there's some frustration and some animosity about actually having to do this.
I would say, okay, I'm an electrical engineer. I clock in and out every day.
I do too, and I have a master's in education. I work as a clinician at a hospital. I clock in and out every time I pull a shift. I'm a professional. Do I resent it? No, I don't. But I think there's a stigma that goes way back, when people were required, when they worked for the textiles or whatever, that there's a stigma about clocking in and maybe being docked or whatever. I worked under a condition like that about 25, 30 years ago. There's a huge difference. And if you're a professional, then you should be able to understand the difference. And the difference being this, that it's computer savvy, it's connected to payroll, it helps you keep track of your time, not just the organization that you work for. And there's the safety issue involved, which I'm a very strong proponent for us being safe. And I don't mind being accounted for because I'm a professional and I do my job and I'm on my job and I don't try to milk the clock. And if you're a professional, you're not going to mind it. I don't understand all this hoopla about this, and I don't think that we need a policy. I don't think it's necessary. And if administration sees a need to do something to create some sort of a policy, I get that. And then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we don't need to be gumming up our policy manual with more policy.
I really do not think it's unprofessional to clock in and out. I think that is very industry standard in lots of places that have technology. It's very normal. I clock in with my badge, and then I have to sign onto my computer, and I manage 40-something people, and they pull when I clock into my door. I just think it just hasn't been there in the past, and so there's a perception that, like you said, maybe that punch in the clock thing, that means you're not a professional, but I really feel like it's going to give you the freedom to come and go.
I'd like to see what the teacher forum folks had to say about it. Maybe talk to their individual school representatives, because there's two types of leadership, folks. One is top down, the other one's bottoms up. I think we should be a more bottom-up district. We need to talk with and consult with our teachers through the teacher forum, through the proper channels, and let the individual teachers and whomever in the buildings go to their representatives. And then when they have their forum representative, we have forum representative here tonight. I'd like to know what our teachers think about it. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing.
I actually spent about 35 minutes on Saturday on the phone with Mr. Snyder.
That's already happened. We've said, I've had multiple people come to me and share concerns. The biggest concern that I hear from the teacher side is largely, this is not an industry job. And so I think a lot of people understand but you're talking to people who are getting beaten and battered in some ways with the amount of work they're taking home. The clock, the punch the clock at the end of the day is almost comical in some ways.
Because you're taking a bag full of stuff for you.
And so that is.
And again, I don't think it's about, from my perspective, it's about and my perspective could be wrong, but it's not about the clocking aspect of, hey, I worked here and there, because anyone who's ever been around a teacher or been a teacher knows how many hours teachers work. I mean, at least the ones that have a passion for it. I mean, they go home and they work for 3 or 4 hours when they get home, you know. But so it's really, like I said, it's really like, this is how we used to do our job. We used to write on a pad and pen, and we had to keep lots of paperwork to keep up with what we do. Now we have computers and software. Just like when I first graduated from my college, I had a $100,000 job selling software as a young man, but I was so stupid, I thought the software was a flake. I was like, who's going to buy software for computers? That's so... From my perspective, it's really, do you continue doing what you've always done, or do you move forward with the tools that we have, you know?
We just heard someone made a report about our district being recognized in District Administration Magazine about Berkeley County being one of the innovative district in the country. So if we're going to continue in that step, then we need to move forward with technology. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like do we use badges at all the schools? It seemed like someone using fingerprints now. No?
Where I work, they scan your hand to go in certain places.
Yes, hands. I mean, hands, fingerprints. I believe that's more efficient, and we need to become more efficient as we grow in this 21st century.
Mr. Snyder, did you have? I know that you've got.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was just going to say one more thing. Two more things actually. I think there needs to be more clear communication to the teacher population about the efficiency matters of those people. It's just been told, it's been given as, hey, time clocks are coming. I mean, that's pretty much, that's a lot of the feedback out of it.
Yeah, that's not real quality communication.
And I'm not saying, and I mean, that's what a lot of people have just, I mean, I had 5 teacher board members right before I came to the meeting today talking to me about these matters. They don't have a clue what's happening other than actual time clocks. The other thing is, I appreciate everybody saying their perspective, but if I can quote Atticus here from the end of the English teacher, when he tells Scout, you don't know what it's like till you walk in other people's shoes. It's not about, and I appreciate you saying you understand what they're going through. I don't think that teachers are necessarily against the idea. It's just education is tremendously fragile right now. In this state, in this district, people don't trust it. And you can see it however you want to see it. And I agree, every other job out there probably doesn't. But this group of people right now does not feel, on the whole, like they have much control. And this to me is probably been compounded by, it's probably not all that big an issue, but at a certain time, it is moving us forward technologically. It is more efficient. It does create better things for HR, but people are not necessarily perceiving that way. And maybe the communication will help clear that up. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm hearing, and I'll kind of express that with everybody. So I appreciate what you said.
Can I ask one question? So when will this implementation actually happen? Do we have a full more year? April 1st. So we have almost a year. So if we allocate the money, then we have from now until April to get where we need to go on the communication piece.
And I would also like to add to that communication piece that we communicate what you just said earlier this is a different pot of money. This is not taking away from our teachers monetarily. This is not taking away from classroom supplies or anything like that. This is money that we could not use to pay teachers. And I started hearing about this even before it came to me as a board member. I had teachers sending me messages or calling me or stopping me saying, why are we having to clock in and out? And I was kind of dumbfounded. They knew about it before I did. So I've been hearing about this for a while, and it's really kind of bubbled up to the point where I'm getting stopped a lot now, and they don't understand. They don't understand why they're having
being
to clock in and out.
scrutinized, or they feel scrutinized.
Yes, exactly. And they also feel that we're being wasteful, and not that we are, but we're being wasteful with their paychecks. And that, I think that you said it beautifully. This is not something that we can use to pay our teachers. This is something we have to use for our buildings. And I think that's a big communication piece that we need to get out there.
And there are some other maintenance concerns, and those do need to be addressed, because it's hard to say this money needs to be used for the building, and then you got a teacher with a leaking classroom with a bigger bucket. That is not an acceptable level of maintenance, is get a bigger bucket. So to me, the maintenance piece is set aside, because a couple of people who've asked me about this, when I said it's maintenance money or capital money, they've brought up their particular classroom issue, which we do need to address. But I feel like the time frame will give us time to hopefully make a better quality communication, and really maybe educate our principals and assistant principals, because normally teachers know what the principals know, or perceive that the board is doing. So, but I have to tell you, I am surprised always when I go throughout this district and run up on people who say, I saw you on the video. They don't always say sweet things, but they always saw me on the video. So a lot of people do watch because they're trying to get the information directly from here. And they also appreciate that we banter lively and have differing opinions. But anyway, so I believe that the money is the right money to spend, and I think we've got to work on the why, because people heard the what before they heard the why.
Also, too, I'd like to interject if I could. Nick, I just want to point out that the teachers in the long run are going to benefit, because the cost savings are going to be, I think, very huge for our school district, which means in the long run, we'll probably be able to increase their salaries. And that's something that is very near and dear to my heart. I appreciate our teachers. And that's one of the reasons why I ran, is because we want good quality teachers such as yourself in this school district. And part of the plan, part of the vision that we have, is moving forward with that and doing what we need to do today in order to get those cost savings, so that we can afford to continue to hire good teachers such as yourself and pay you what you're worth.
And Ann, I just wanted to tell you, thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad we have this open communication, teachers to the board. Like, that is so awesome, I think. And I appreciate every teacher in this district. I know everybody does sitting up here. We truly care about them. And the safety issue is a big thing for me. I love knowing who all's in the buildings, and God forbid anything ever happens. So
Dr. Ingram would like to add something.
Yeah, and I rarely speak at board meetings, because after all, it is a board meeting, not a superintendent meeting. And I encourage all young superintendents to yield to the board, because superintendents work for the board. However, as the CEO of the district, it is my responsibility. We push the 4 C's, communication being one of them. Nick, I personally apologize for not getting back to you. I was sort of, tied up a little bit this past weekend, but I did talk to Sally, and we had talked, and I'll talk with you about the particulars later. We probably need a more direct communication line between teachers and the superintendent. A teacher advisory council, not to get another meeting, but however, we need to have that dialogue in a formal way, so we don't miscommunicate. And again, not to throw it in anyone's face, but 20 years ago, I did sign in as a professional educator at State Department in another state. And again, its primary purpose was not to snoop on where I was, but it was to keep up with my leave balances. I did talk with 4 principals this past week about this issue specifically. And one principal it was an issue in her building. And when I explained the purpose, she said, "Oh, I can work with teachers on that, no problem." And then she even recalled a former 2 or 3 different employees who had gone on to other things and would call her later and say, "I've been getting health insurance for 6 months. I left 6 months ago and I'm still getting health insurance." And those kinds of things cost money, and when you multiply that over time, that's exactly what Ms. Wofford was saying. And it's true, we can't spend the money we're spending on teacher salaries. So, but if we can, we've done a couple of things that I think will save significant amounts of money over time. One is the P card. That was sort of a big boogabear, having to approve P cards. And I know that I'm approving them all the time. Ashley sends them to, I sort of silently, I don't really curse you, Ashley, but sort of when I hear my phone just ding, 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 ding. But I know how time sensitive it is, so I get right to it. But we've saved, approximately $400,000, correct? And and we've only denied 1. 2? Okay, 2. Just 1? So we feel confident that with being more efficient with the money that we have, that we will be able to put more into the coffers, because the money we're saving is money we could use in many cases to pay our people better. So that's the goal. But I take responsibility for that, Nick. That's something that I don't think it'll ever be perfect, because there's no such thing as too much communication. But if we develop some type of mechanism where I can communicate directly with teachers, because you do have to start with the why. That's extremely important. You as a member of the design team know that. Why are we doing this? And I didn't do a very good job of explaining the why. So that's on me. So.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the award of RFP 526-17-18 to establish a 5-year term contract for various waste collection and disposable services as follows. Lot 2 for dumpsters to be awarded to Carolina Waste and Recycling, LLC, with a projected contract value of $54,949.56. Lot 3 for grease trap pumping to be awarded to KW Environmental, LLC, with a projected contract value of $183,400. And Lot 4 for used cooking oil collection and recycling with a projected 5-year cost of $5,000 with contract effective date as prescribed on the award notice.
We have a recommendation from committee. No second is required. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Madam Chairwoman, that concludes my report.
So Dr. Ingram gave us a big old scare on Friday, and we are very glad that he is feeling well and here tonight. He had a little bump up, little minor concussion going on, but he scared us tremendously. But the one thing he did do was hurry Sue home, which makes us all happy that Miss Sue is home. So, Dr. Ingram, I'm very thankful that you are feeling well enough to be sitting beside me tonight. I did call on Dion on Friday and tell him to be prepared, and he told me for sure that you'd be sitting beside me no matter what. So I'm thankful you're sitting beside me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to thank everybody for the kind words and the visits, and we had staff, I guess, watching me, and Dr. Whitley and I actually worked from the hospital a little bit, so we didn't completely completely abandoned post there. But yeah, I tell you one thing, it just makes you realize just how precious life is, and how, sometimes it just kind of flashes before your eyes a little bit, and you said, if I'd really been in that little sports car I always wanted to buy that I'll never buy now, I may not be sitting here tonight. So I think my next vehicle will be a tank of some sort. I don't know exactly where, but it probably won't travel as fast. But at any rate, thank you for all the concern. And yes, I was very fortunate. And but I was really thinking of the district. But I do trust. I know one thing. It makes me feel like I'm part of a family now. I mean, sometimes when you have crisis, it makes like you feel part of a family. And for that, Sue and I will be always very appreciative. So we've been in school for 7 days, and we faced some challenges in transportation. Those are always issues at the beginning of the year. We're working as hard as we can, as quickly as we can to address these issues. We've posted information for parents to register for remind.com, so they'll receive notifications on issues related to their child's transportation. I think it's good for the public to know we transport over 20,000 kids a day. So the coordination of those efforts, despite all of the technology we have at our disposal, it's a challenge, and it takes a while to get those things straight. But it's our priority to ensure their safety, our kids' safety while they go to school and back home. So be patient. We're working as hard as we can to ameliorate those issues. As expected and projected, we've seen increased student enrollment across the district. Dr. Whitley and her team are working closely with school administrators to adjust allocations and reconfigure classroom and collaborative areas to ensure best use of instructional space and support, and to support 21st century learning. Please be reminded that there will be a board workshop on September 18th. That's a Tuesday, but it's not one of our normal meeting times, regarding the implementation of the capital spending plan as we work to accommodate the growth we're experiencing. It's very important that we have your attendance on the 18th if possible. The cabinet is working to reestablish protocols for daily business in our schools. We're finding that some necessary procedures are not in writing or haven't been updated in quite some time. Two procedural areas we're working to address on right now and it's actually been created. The draft has been created thanks to Steve Brandenburg and his wiles and some other people as well. We have a process for reporting mildew and mold. A lot of times when we see mildew, people think it's mold. They yell mold, but it's not mold. So we have a process in place for the reporting of that so that we can address it. We are in South Carolina. It rains a lot. It's humid. So we have a process for that now. And also the other is our guidelines for custody and transfer of cumulative records. A student's record is very important. And while everybody has a good idea of what to do, we now have a pretty good specific booklet with guidelines on how to do those things so that we'll be able to pass them along. Our goal is to ensure consistency and efficiency for central service and school operations. This number changes hourly, Dr. Whitley, so my copy says 38 vacancies. Is it 39 or 38 vacancies? But anyway, this number's fluid, and we're continuing to work hard to recruit and retain quality staff. Please keep in mind, we do have teachers in these classrooms. Some are long-term subs, which requires certification. 33. Okay, well, I got to change that. It's been 33. Hot dog, yeah, we're getting better. Our cabinet and district support staff, we've been visible in our schools. I've personally visited 20 schools so far. I'd have been further along had I learned how to drive better. With the goal of visiting 47 campuses in the first 30 days. That's my first order of business. I would like to report from Child Nutrition. Big kudos to them. From June 11th to August 3rd, our summer food staff served 31,384 hot breakfasts and 74,698 hot lunches. We served over 106,000 meals this past summer. Kudos to the Child Nutrition staff. Congratulations to Cane Bay High Senior Ogagawa Wazigwe, who received the 2018 R.D. Bennett Community Service Scholarship presented by the Electric Cooperatives of South Carolina. She was one of 10 high school students from across the state who competed for the scholarship. I would like to recognize the following members of the Teacher Forum in attendance in addition to Nick. Amanda Cooper from Goose Creek High. Would you wave, Amanda? Are you here? Amanda, hello, Amanda. How are you? And Michelle Power from Howe Hall Ames. Michelle, hey, Michelle, how you doing? Thanks for coming tonight. Boy, we got a holiday already. Our offices and schools will be closed on Monday in observance of Labor Day, but we will return Tuesday ready to continue teaching and learning and all kinds of great stuff. And next week I do have a required superintendent's meeting in Greenville on September 4th and 5th. Sue no longer trusts me to drive, so she will be driving me to that meeting. And I guess it's driving Mr. Eddie or whatever instead of Miss Daisy. But at any rate, that concludes my report for the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Board Chair report, upcoming dates and events. So at the workshop, when we went over Dr. Ingram's self-assessment, we put out the date of September 11th is when we will review the board's assessment. So everyone should have the forms and Dr. Ingram's self-assessment in their email. If you do not, let me know. I'd like those emailed to me by September 6th, if possible, because I'm going to compile them on the 7th. And then our next meeting will be the 11th, and it will be in the Finance and Human Resources Committee meeting on September 11th is when we will be doing the superintendent's evaluation. And we'll be using the McCrell tool, and we'll be working from the, so we'll take the self-assessment, we'll take the board's assessment, it'll be, you take the median, and then we'll go through that McCrell tool at that time. And I'll work with Dr. Ingram. I'm sure we'll want to present some evidence for the public, so we'll go through that planning as well. But September 6th, and if you go in your email and you don't have Dr. Ingram's self-assessment, if you were at the workshop, you should have the hard copy. If you don't have that, let me know, and Penny will get you what you need. So that is all I have. Agenda item 11A. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Chairman.
Second. There's a motion by Ms. Conder, a second by Wofford to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.